in redevelopment lease revenue bonds, Series 2012A and Series 2012A municipal revenue obligation, and the execution of related documents, and authorizing an amended and restated public property lease and contribution agreement.
Thank you, Mr. President. If you don't mind, I would like to offer to cover both A and B in one staff report. They're somewhat related. And we do have with us this evening our financial advisor, Don Gunderson with Ellers, and she's really here to give the details of both bond sales that occurred this morning. We did have two sales that we had this morning. One was the CDA lease revenue bonds. These are going to be used to help finance projects that we have in our tax increment district number 5, which is the downtown TIF. The CDA did meet earlier this evening, and they did hold a public hearing on these bonds, and they also approved the issuance of bonds and the sale that occurred earlier today. The second issue is a general obligation issue. This includes funding for not only capital improvement projects that are in the CIP this year for the city, but there's also a refunding component to this particular issue. We're refunding some outstanding debt that the city currently has in hopes to save interest costs with lower interest rates on those bonds. We did receive very good rates this morning as a result of the current financial market, and we are expecting to save, I think, fairly substantially more than we expected when we looked at preliminary numbers a month or so ago when the council initially approved the initial resolutions to issue the debt. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Don Gunderson with Ellers, and again, she will cover the details of the sale that took place this morning.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening. You've been provided with a packet of material, copies of the resolutions that you'll be considering this evening for both issues, and salary result packets for each of the issues. First, I will address the community development lease revenue bonds, the sale result of this morning's negotiated issue with $1,665,000 of redevelopment lease revenue bonds. This was negotiated with Baird out of Milwaukee. We've used them due to their market exposure and their ability to place these issues. They've got a large client base in the state of Wisconsin with CDA lease revenue bonds. If they're bought by investors who pay Wisconsin taxes, the interest earnings that they receive on the investment is both exempt from taxation on a federal level because of the tax exempt financing, and also state of Wisconsin taxes. So Baird is historically been able to place these quite well with favorable interest rates, and we believe that that is the case in this issue as well. The packet of material that you have on this issue includes the Moody's Investors Service rating report. These bonds are rated with Moody's Investors Service with an A3 rating, would certainly assist in the interest rates obtained on the issue. The report is there. It is on the first 7 pages, so please take the time to read that. Page 8 of this report is the interest rates on the issue. It's a rather short issue. Your tax increment district number 5 concludes its expenditure period in September of this year. Once that arrives, there are no ability to take on additional projects or financing for that district. With this financing, each maturity holds an interest rate. Those rates range between 0.8% and 1.82%. The overall TIC interest rate is the average interest rate, and the underwriter discount is 1.9866%. To give you a perspective of that, when we were here a month ago with our planning estimates, we were sizing this issue with a 2.33 TIC rate, so this is lower than the initial planning estimates when we were authorized to proceed with the sale. The comparative numbers in terms of interest cost as a result of the financing Our planning estimates had the interest at $150,518. These actual interest rates will result in an interest cost over the entire life of the issue if it's held to that maturity of $124,821. With this issue and the other obligations that exist in the tax increment district, your tax increment district 5 has development, is collecting approximately $1.1 million of increment on an annual basis. Its ability to cover its existing debt and this debt would still close out 1 year early of its statutory life in 2017, with funds available for redistribution back to the overlapping taxing districts once all the debt is retired. So the details of that are on page 9 and 10. We've also included a municipal bond buyer index to show you the interest rates over the last 12-month period. In February of this year, that bond buyer index hit its low, historical low over the last 35 years at 3.6. Those rates are at 3.77. So the timing of the sale patterned quite well within the historical interest rate. So that's the results of this sale. I'm glad to answer any questions on that before we move to the general obligation issue.
No.
Okay. The other half of the packet of material includes the resolution for the general obligation corporate purpose bonds and also the sale report packet, which I'll review with you now. We went to market this morning. This particular issue we did as a competitive bond issue. General obligation is it's a standard financing. The official statement went out. We took competitive bids at 11 o'clock this morning. In this packet, you will also see a rating report. The city holds a bond rating with Standard & Poor's. The rating report is included in here. We had a conference call with them a week ago. The city has obtained and been affirmed with their A+ rating with Standard & Poor's. This is on this issue and all of the outstanding debt that the city currently has in place. So take the time again to read that rating report. It also is reflective of the good rates that you received on this issue. So on page 6 of the packet of material is the bid tabulation. As I mentioned, we went to market to issue $7,355,000 of general obligation corporate purpose bonds for the purpose of financing your 2012 capital projects and to refinance 2 outstanding obligations, the general obligation from 2006 and a state trust fund loan that had a Build America bond rebate issued in 2009. We received 3 bids. Bosque Inc., a subsidiary of Bank of Oklahoma out of Menominee Falls, was the winning bid. They're ranked in the order of most favorable bid based upon the true interest rate, which is the average interest rate, and the net underwriter discount and reoffering premium. The true interest rate from Bosque was 2.5746, followed by a bid from Piper Jaffray in Minneapolis, 2.5999, and Baird out of Milwaukee at 2.6971. So the bid tabulation includes those 3 bids, and with the results of the low bid, we were able to accomplish a couple of things. Because of the reoffering premium that was placed on the bids, we were able to cover some of the issuance costs, the underwriter discount, and reduce the amount needed for our refinancing. We actually are issuing and awarding the sale of a lower amount at $7,240,000. So we were able to downsize that issue by $115,000. So the resolution you're adopting this evening will be for that lower amount. With that reduced issue size, and I want to recap the difference then between our planning estimates for the cost of this issue and the financing today. When we were here a month ago authorizing this, on page 9 you'll see that our planning estimates, the bottom of the left-hand corner, were for the new money and the refinancing, that principal and interest of $9.4 million. With today's sale, it's just under $9.1 million, so there's a difference of about 318,000. So that's less interest or less expense to the city by that amount to do this, to accomplish the same goals. To break that out in terms of the components, on page 10, our cost to issue the debt for the street projects is 127,000 less than our planning estimates. The park and public grounds is about 15,000 less. Your fire equipment is about 25,000 less, and an additional savings to the refunding portion of 150,000. So that's the 318,000 lower amount of overall principal and interest cost. But to then focus on the actual refinancing, and as I said, a big piece of this was to refinance current outstanding debt and take advantage of the low interest rates and utilize some real savings dollars to the city. So on page 11, this is a consolidation of the two refinancings. As I mentioned earlier, we were refinancing a 2006 general obligation bond and a state trust fund bond. So the column to focus on here is to the far right, which breaks out the savings on an annual basis. And beginning in 2013, you'll see that there's a $27,000 savings. That's savings of existing debt you have outstanding that you'll be able to realize next year. And then each year going forward, that number ranges between that 27,000 and about 13,000 at the later years on the longer refinanced. The difference between when we chose to move forward with this, we were estimating about a 2.3% savings, the combination. We realized over a 6% savings on this. So in future dollars, it's about $272,000 that the city will save. Bringing that to a net present value, it's $216,000 in today's dollar. Our estimates, that number was at $84,000, so that picks up an additional $132,000 of net present value savings by undertaking these two refinancings. The next two schedules break that out by issue. The greatest savings, obviously, is in the longer term issue, which is a 2006. That on an average annual basis is about $17,000 on an annual basis on average between 2013 and 2026. Again, there's about $230,000 savings on this issue alone, and the state trust fund BAB, net of the rebate, is another $3,000 to $8,000 on an annual basis between 2013 and 2019. So here that's about a little net present value, a little lower. This is a current refinancing, and it's still savings on an annual basis to the city. Again, I've attached that same chart as the previous issue, so the timing of this hit a very nice low in interest rate for the market. So maximizing the savings on the refinancing. So glad to answer any questions you may have on this issue as well.
A couple of questions, Ms. Gunderson. First,
Yes.
Refresh my memory. I thought that the state trust fund and the incentive with the Build America bonds were not callable so quickly. And how did that work? How did we save the money with the Build America bonds kickback with 35% or 45% interest? How did that work?
You had a fixed rate with the Build America bond that you were paying, and then you were getting a 35% rebate. So there was a net cost to you. Because it was issued through the state trust fund, it has the same prepayment opportunity that any state trust fund loan. What will happen now is with these lower interest rates, the net cost of interest is actually still lower than it was after the rebate was applied on that existing issue. So it's net the rebate, so the savings we were comparing is after the rebate was applied. What will happen now is the proceeds from this issue will pay off your state trust fund. You will no longer be applying for the rebate from the IRS because that will go away with that loan, and you'll still be realizing a savings on an annual basis with the lower interest rates on this. So interest rates have dropped down, that we're actually benefiting from, even with that 35% rebate at a lower cost to the city.
Okay, that was my main question.
And I just wanted to explain to the public that earlier this afternoon you met with the entire Community Development Authority Board.
Correct.
And they unanimously accepted this report that you and Mr. York gave. And then earlier, prior to this meeting, you met with the entire council and explained how we have very favorable interest rates on the community development one
will, yes.
So I want to thank you for the time you spent with us today.
Thank you.
Any other council comments or questions? Hearing none, I believe we have we're going to need to do a roll call vote.
Approval of 11A.
Second. Motion by Spencer, second by Luke.
Okay, Kincaid. Spreitzer.
Yes.
Haynes.
Aye.
Lukey.
Aye.
Van de Bogart.
Aye.
Record shows that all five are in support for the $7,240,000 of general obligation bond. Get a motion.
Second. Motion by Luke, second by Van Bogart.
Okay. Kincaid. Spreitzer. Haynes.
Aye.
Lukey.
Aye.
Van de Bogart.
Aye.
Okay, the record shows all five, motion carries with all five voting in favor.